When I was 26, I got a divorce. I was married to my husband for 6 years, and I loved him with all my heart. Unfortunately, he didn't feel the same way. After he moved out, I became incredibly depressed. I loved my husband. I didn't want to get a divorce, and I didn't want to live in this house all alone. A few months after we'd separated, I finally gave up and signed the divorce papers. I was so sad that I couldn't spend another minute in this empty house. So I did something that I'd never done before. I went to a bar. It was late at night, and most of the bar was empty. I only had a few drinks. I never drink. So I spent most of my time chatting with the bartender. I mentioned to her that I had just signed my divorce papers, and I noticed a man on the other end of the bar lift his head. He was very handsome. He had long black hair that almost went down to his shoulders, and was wearing a red and black flannel. But I had just gotten divorced, literally, and I was in no position to be looking at other men. About 10 minutes later, he stood up and came to sit in the stool beside me. I was sort of nervous, not only about the fact that he was handsome, but because it was nearly 2 in the morning, and we three were the only people left in here, and I wasn't sure that the bartender and I could handle this alone if things went awry. He introduced himself. His name was Adam, and he told me that he had just gotten divorced a year ago. We talked and vented to each other late into the night, and I felt a massive weight lifting off of my shoulders. It was so nice to have someone else to talk to about this who had been through the same thing, and I felt happy for the first time in months. It was strange, but as I was talking to him, I felt like I had known him for a lifetime. He told me all about his ex-wife Joanne, and how she'd completely broke his heart. We'd both married young, and we had a lot in common. We both agreed that we weren't ready to get into a new relationship, but a friend? That I could handle. After the bartender called the last call, we left, and I gave him my number and told him that if he ever needed someone to talk to, I was here. I went home to my empty house, which suddenly didn't feel so lonely. A few days later, I received a text from an unknown number late in the night. It was Adam, asking if I was available to talk. I called him, and we talked for hours. We found out that we had another thing in common. We never slept anymore. After my husband had moved out, I manifested a strange fear of the dark, and being able to talk to Adam seemed to chase that away. This became an almost nightly occurrence, and soon we were getting really close. We told each other everything, and I found myself telling him things that I hadn't even told my closest friends. I was happier than I had been in a long time, and I was incredibly thankful for my new friend. After a couple of weeks of that, he invited me to come to a company picnic at his work. He worked in finance, and he was pretty far up the ladder, and that worried me a little, let alone the fact that we were just friends, and I hadn't seen him in person since the first time we'd met. But I agreed to go, and I was excited. The day of the picnic quickly came, and Adam and I made our way there. It was a little awkward at first. We had really only spoken on the phone for the last 3 weeks, and it was strange to be spending time with him in person. But as the day progressed, I remembered why I'd gotten attached to him so quickly. He was charming, smart, funny, and so attractive that it was intimidating. All of his coworkers loved me, and they asked quite a few times if we were dating, but we kept asserting that we were just friends. In the evening, he dropped me off at home, and he thanked me for coming with him. I assured him that I was happy to do so, and I had fun with him. As I was about to leave, he stopped and told me that he was so thankful to have met me, and that he wanted to start spending more time with me if I wanted to. After that, we saw each other every chance that we got. We went to museums, art shows, the movies, restaurants, pretty much anywhere that we could together. He was my absolute best friend, and I liked spending time with him more than anyone else. And surprisingly, we were still just friends. But I couldn't deny that I was starting to develop some feelings for him. I didn't mean to, but we were so close, and he was so sweet to me that it was almost impossible not to. After we had been friends for about 6 months, Adam got a huge promotion at work. His company threw him a fancy gala to celebrate, and he invited me to go as his date. I was so excited. This was finally my chance to see if this friendship could be anything more. After my husband left me, I thought that I'd never be able to love again. And now I had hope. I felt like a teenager again, and I couldn't wait to celebrate my best friend and his amazing achievements. Adam picked me up, and he looked so handsome. He told me that I looked beautiful, and it was the first time he ever said anything like that to me. The night was absolutely magical. We had so much fun, and we even ended up slow dancing. The feelings that I had started to develop for him were unstoppable. He took me home and walked me to my door. I thanked him for taking me and told him how proud of him I was. Suddenly, completely out of nowhere, he kissed me. I was on cloud 9. I knew that my feelings for him had to be for a reason. We said goodnight and he went home. That was the first night since my husband had left me that I fell asleep with a smile on my face. The next morning I woke up to a missed call from Adam and a voicemail. He was asking if I wanted to go to dinner with him that night to discuss our relationship. I was so excited. Finally, after 6 months, our relationship was going to blossom. I met him at the restaurant, and as soon as I sat down with him, it was obvious that something was wrong. The look on his face was so transparently devastated that it made me a little nauseous. We ate dinner, and I was just waiting for him to bring up what was wrong. It was an agonizing wait, and I had an awful feeling about this. After what seemed like forever, he told me that he had started talking to Joanne again. He said that they were just talking as friends first, but now the conversation had started to shift to talking about making their relationship work again. I was gutted. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach, but I put on a happy face. I told him that I was happy for him and that I would be there to support him. Then, with tears in his eyes, he told me that Joanne wasn't okay with our friendship and that this would be the last time that he'd be spending time with me. I didn't even know what to say. I was so shocked. How could he do this to me? Why would he kiss me if he was trying to work things out with his ex-wife? I asked him why he did it, and he said that he had to do it at least once. I was angry, confused, and absolutely heartbroken. The last thing that I asked him was if he cared more about her than me. I know that I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help it. He just nodded. He couldn't even look at me anymore. The last thing that I said to him was that I hoped that he found happiness, and I left. That was the last time that Adam and I spoke. It was about 4 years ago now, and I still think about him every single day. He and Joanne are still together, but I don't know how they're holding up. I was so angry at him at first that I hoped that Joanne broke his heart again. I was hurt, and I wanted him to hurt just as badly. But now, all I wish is that Adam's happy. He brought me so much joy into my life when I needed it the most, and I still cared about him. And he taught me a valuable lesson, that maybe sometimes, certain people are only meant to be in our lives for a short period. Maybe some people come into our lives to help heal us, and then they leave us. But I can't help but wish that someday, Adam and I will make our ways back to each other.